Welcome to Whispering Shadows. Dive into the eerie and unknown as we unravel chilling tales designed to keep you up at night. If you love suspense, twists, and unforgettable horror, you're in the right place. Before we get started with tonight's story, Midnight at Pinewood Diner, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating stories. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a haunting moment. Now settle in, dim the lights, and prepare yourself, because not everything is as it seems in Pinewood Diner. Are you ready? Let's begin. Midnight at Pinewood Diner. Chapter 1. A surprise stop. I was on the tail end of a cross-country drive when exhaustion got the better of me. The highway signs had dwindled to almost nothing, and the desert night pressed in from all sides. My phone signal flickered, the fuel gauge hovered near empty, and I needed caffeine desperately. That's when I glimpsed a faint neon glow in the distance, a flickering sign reading Pinewood Diner, open 24/7. Out here, in the middle of nowhere, it looked surreal, perched by a deserted stretch of asphalt. My car sputtered, so I steered it into the gravel lot. Dust swirled in my headlights as I parked next to a single battered truck. A hush surrounded me, broken only by the distant hum of crickets. The diner's neon sign popped and fizzed, half the letters blinking. Not exactly welcoming, but I had no choice. I stepped inside, forcing a polite smile as the heavy door creaked open. Chapter 2. Oddly familiar faces. A cold blast of air conditioning hit me first, followed by the smell of stale coffee and fried grease. The interior was all retro, vinyl booths, checkered floor, a long counter with red-topped stools. Dim overhead lights flickered, emphasizing how empty it was. Well, almost empty. Two men in trucker caps sat at a booth near the back, heads bent low over their plates. A teenage girl in a pale uniform busied herself behind the counter. When the door jingled, they all glanced up in unison, making my skin prickle. Their faces were oddly blank, as though I'd interrupted something secret. "Evening," the waitress greeted, forcing a smile. Her name tag read Maria. "Have a seat anywhere." I slid into a booth near the window, trying to ignore the uneasy vibe. The men at the back booth stared a moment longer, then resumed eating in silence. My nerves twitched. Was I just paranoid? Maria approached with a worn menu. "Coffee?" "Definitely," I exhaled, rummaging for my wallet. "And maybe a slice of pie if you have it." She nodded, eyes flicking to the door. "We have apple, fresh." Fresh pie at midnight in a deserted diner. Strange but welcome. She left to retrieve it, and I took a moment to rub my temples. I was beyond tired. Maybe that's why this place felt off. Relax, I told myself. Chapter 3. A Mysterious Warning. When Maria returned with a steaming mug and a wedge of pie, I noticed a faint tremor in her hand. She set them down gently, leaning in. "You new around here?" she whispered, voice tight. "We don't get many travelers." I shrugged. "Just passing through. Car trouble." Her gaze darted toward the men in trucker caps. "Word of advice? Don't linger. Eat fast, then go. The longer you stay." She swallowed hard. "Bad things happen." My pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then forced a bigger smile and stepped back, returning to the counter as though nothing had happened. The men didn't even blink, like they hadn't heard a thing. But my heartbeat thudded heavier. Bad things happen? I sipped the coffee, bitter, scalding, enough to jolt me into alertness. The pie tasted suspiciously tangy, but not unpleasant. Exhausted as I was, it felt good to have something warm. Chapter 4. A Strange Atmosphere. The clock on the wall read 12:19 a.m. The men finished their meal, muttered quietly, then left cash on the table and shuffled out. The door clanged behind them, silence returning. Through the fogged window, I spotted their truck's brake lights glow, then vanish down the highway. Now it was just me and Maria in the stillness. The overhead lights flickered again, humming with power surges. An uneasy feeling gnawed my gut. Why had she warned me? And where was the cook or any other staff? I finished half the pie slice, forcing a calm expression when Maria drifted over again. "Everything okay?" she asked, voice subdued. I nodded. "Yeah, though I'm curious. You said not to linger. Why?" She grimaced, glancing at the kitchen door. Odd things happen after midnight. People see shadows in the parking lot, or hear voices from nowhere. She bit her lip. Some folks never come back once they leave, or so they say. A chill ran down my spine. Like they disappear? She tensed as if regretting her honesty. "Look, I'm telling you so you'll be cautious. The longer you stay in Pinewood Diner, the harder it is to leave." She glanced at the door again, but no one came out. "Just watch yourself." Chapter 5. The Eerie Kitchen. Determined to find answers, I decided to check the kitchen. Perhaps the cook or manager could clarify why this place felt so ominous. Slipping off my seat, I approached the swinging door. Maria noticed, alarm flickering in her eyes. "You really shouldn't," she began, but I pushed through the door before she could stop me. A wave of heat and the smell of raw meat slapped me. The kitchen was dim, large industrial vents rattling overhead. Pots and pans lined the counters, but no sign of any cook. Then I spotted something on the far counter, a large slab of some unidentifiable meat half-chopped, with fresh blood trickling into a drain. My stomach lurched. What are they serving? Behind me, a hiss from the grill made me jump. The vent overhead roared, sucking away the sizzle and steam. A door at the back of the kitchen banged softly. Maybe a walk-in freezer or storeroom. My curiosity battled revulsion. Summoning courage, I inched toward it. Suddenly, footsteps pounded from outside. The back door swung open, and a figure in a stained apron stepped in. The cook, tall, bulky, face partially obscured by a low cap. He froze upon seeing me, then lunged. "You're not allowed here!" he growled, voice raspy. He grabbed my arm painfully tight, forcing me back through the kitchen door. "Stay out if you know what's good for you." I stumbled into the diner area, gasping. The cook glared at Maria, who shrank behind the counter. Tension crackled in the stale air. Chapter 6. A Deserted Town. Trembling, I returned to my booth. Enough was enough. I needed to pay and leave, strange car trouble or not. My plan: I'd risk driving a few miles more, find a safer spot. I flagged Maria. "Check, please." Her hand shook as she totaled my bill. $8.50, she whispered. "Cash only." I handed her a 10. "Keep the change." My gut screamed to run, but as I stepped outside, the night felt heavier, the darkness wrapping the lot in a suffocating hush. Crickets had gone silent. I popped the hood, shining a flashlight to see if I could coax the engine to life. Everything seemed normal. But when I turned the key, the engine only coughed and died. Again and again. Cold sweat beaded on my neck. No way was this a coincidence. The diner's neon sign flickered, casting shifting shadows across my car. Over the highway, a thick fog had rolled in. No sign of other headlights. My phone, of course, showed 0 bars. Reluctantly, I trudged back in. Maria stood near the window, worry etched on her face. "You can't get away tonight," she said softly. Chapter 7. The Stuck Traveler. I sagged into the booth again, dread pooling in my stomach. The clock now read 1:07 a.m. The men in trucker caps hadn't returned. The cook lurked somewhere behind the partition. I looked at Maria. "So, what do I do? Sleep here?" She nodded, voice trembling. Wait for dawn. Maybe then you can break free. Her eyes darted to the door as though expecting something. Or someone. I inhaled sharply. Where's the manager? I need to call a tow truck. She gave a hollow laugh. Manager's gone. We haven't had phone lines in months. The storms cut them, and no one bothers repairing them. She paused. You're not the first who's gotten stuck. Some folks leave after dawn, never to speak of it again. Others vanish, and some become part of Pinewood Diner forever. My blood ran cold. Part of the diner? She swallowed. They never leave these walls, locked in a loop. Chapter 8. A terrible revelation. The overhead lights flickered once more, plunging the diner into near darkness for a heartbeat. In that moment, I glimpsed shapes, like silhouettes standing in the corners, heads turned toward me. Then the lights buzzed back, revealing empty space. My pulse hammered. Am I hallucinating? That's when the men in trucker caps suddenly re-entered from the restroom's hallway. I could have sworn they left earlier, yet here they were again. Same table, same quiet stares. My mind reeled. Didn't you drive away? No response. They slid into their booth as if nothing had happened, sipping coffee that materialized out of nowhere. My heart pounded. Something is deeply wrong with this place. Maria grabbed my shoulder, voice urgent. You see it now, right? Time warps here. People come back or never left. I'm stuck too. Tears glinted in her eyes. I want out, but it's like the diner holds me. The sun never fully rises if you can't break the cycle. A primal dread rose in my throat. How do we break it? She hesitated, then pointed to the kitchen door. The cook. He's part of it. Maybe if we confront him, or destroy whatever binds this place, we can free ourselves. Chapter 9. Confrontation. The cook emerged again, apron spattered with fresh red stains. My heart lurched. What was he chopping? He loomed at the counter, glaring at Maria. You talk too much, he growled. She shrank, but I mustered courage. Look, I'm leaving. Let me call a tow truck or help me fix my car. Enough is enough. He snorted, stepping closer. There is no leaving. Pinewood Diner needs you. All you travelers become part of the menu. The men in trucker caps nodded slowly, as if in a trance. Horror jolted my senses. They're in on this. Some bizarre cannibalistic cult? But the cook's next words froze me. It's not about cannibalism, friend. He smirked. The diner devours souls, not flesh. I just supply the illusions. The illusions keep you frightened, stuck in fear, until the diner's hold is complete. Chills raced down my spine. So the raw meat, the blood, maybe illusions? You're feeding the diner fear? I whispered. He bared his teeth, a savage grin. Exactly. The more you tremble, the stronger this place becomes. Soon you'll be trapped, just like the rest. Another ghost in the diner. Chapter 10. A desperate escape. Maria shot me a terrified glance. We have to stop him. If we break his illusions, maybe the diner's spell breaks too. The cook advanced, brandishing a butcher knife glinting under the flickering lights. Resist, and you'll feed it even more fear. I backed toward the door, heart hammering. The men in trucker caps rose, blocking the exit. My mind whirled. Fear was the key. If I caved to terror, the diner would ensnare me. Steeling my nerves, I gripped a nearby stool. Maria, stand behind me! The cook lunged. I swung the stool, bracing for impact. But the knife clanged against it, no real weight behind the blow. For an instant, the cook's form flickered, like a bad TV signal. My fear melted to confusion. He's not real, I breathed. Maria's eyes widened. You see it! He's an illusion, a manifestation! Chapter 11. Maria. I pressed forward, ignoring the cook's menacing stance. Each time I refused to recoil in fear, his figure glitched. The men in trucker caps, too, shimmered like mirages. They parted, letting me pass as if an unseen force commanded them. Maria hurried after me. "Let's get you to your car. Once you're off the property, the illusions won't hold." We burst through the diner door. My car sat under the flickering neon sign, dust swirling in the gloom. I hopped behind the wheel, turning the key. It roared to life. No problem at all. Relief flooded me. The illusions had messed with my engine, not real mechanical failure. Maria opened the passenger door, sliding in. "Take me with you," she pleaded. I nodded, peeling out of the gravel lot. The diner receded in the rearview mirror, its neon sign blinking ominously. The desert road stretched ahead. My pulse still hammered, but I tried to focus on the reality. The illusions were behind us. Chapter 12. The Final Twist. After a few miles, the desert night seemed normal again. I breathed easier. Maria sat silent, hands trembling. "I can't believe we did it," she whispered. "I'm free." I offered a sympathetic nod. "Yeah, you're safe now." As I glanced at her in the mirror, my blood chilled. Her reflection wavered, like the illusions from before. "Maria!" I croaked. Her face flickered, half smiling, half distorted. Her eyes locked with mine, pupils dark as midnight. "You think I'm real?" she hissed softly. I slammed the brakes, adrenaline surging. The car skidded to a stop on the roadside. Maria's shape shimmered. She gave a mocking grin. "The diner can't be beaten that easily. Your fear still fuels it. And I am part of that fear." Panicked, I reached for the door handle, but it vanished under my hand. The entire car interior warped, the seats dissolving into swirling shadows. I realized with a gut-wrenching shock, I never truly left the diner. My surroundings melted away, revealing the diner's interior. I was still in the booth, trembling, coffee cup in hand, Maria standing over me with an empty stare. The men in trucker caps smirked from their booth. The cook hovered by the counter, knife glinting. It had all been another layer of illusion, my supposed escape just a dream conjured by Pinewood Diner to keep me docile. Chapter 13. The Shocking End. Numb with horror, I stared at Maria, her eyes cold, no longer the fearful waitress. She spoke in a low, hypnotic tone. "You've given us your fear. The diner feeds on that. Now your mind is ours." She stepped aside, revealing the door wide open, darkness swirling beyond. The cook gestured, beckoning me to step into that void. The men in trucker caps watched hungrily. My limbs felt like lead. I realized I couldn't remember anything but the diner. No past, no family, just an endless midnight under flickering neon. My terror skyrocketed, a final jolt of realization. I was trapped, my soul claimed by illusions I couldn't break. With a strangled gasp, I slid from the booth, my legs moving on their own. Past the threshold, into the swirling darkness, the last thing I heard was the cook's voice in my ear. "Welcome to Pinewood Diner. You'll be on the menu for a long time." And then silent blackness.